Hi all. Tonight we're going to do a video on proper striking dynamics. Okay? We've done something with kicking. Today I want to talk about hitting. Okay? So what is the thing that makes a strike powerful? Well, you got to look at this question on many levels. Okay? When you're training for something like a competition, a sport, you're going to be doing things a certain way, which will affect how to utilize biomechanical efficiency. Okay? When you are training, you learn how to throw a punch every conceivable way. And the reason for that is it teaches you all these different methods. Now, once you develop your breathing and your posture and your movement, okay, and apply your 3 pillars to that, your distance, timing, and intent, now you have a framework from which to work, so that's going to be what you get reflexively, okay? And your body will determine at that point how you want to throw your punches, okay? This is for the ultimate level of self-protection, life and death, horrible street fighting, okay? It's not for getting into a ring and trying to master one particular aspect, because what you want to master is not a style of punching, which, look, if you go to college, you could study world history, you could study 3 different cultures, and nobody would say to you, the teacher who teaches Chinese history wouldn't say, well, if you're studying Tibetan history, you really can't study in this class. It'll confuse you. Yet, sometimes you have this persistent kind of, it's lesser nowadays, but was big in my generation. This idea that if you study how to do one thing one way, then you won't be able to do it another way. If you study boxing, you won't be able to karate punch, you won't be able to grapple. Nonsense, okay? Styles of punching are situational, okay? If I'm close here, okay, and the best shot to catch you here is this, why not use it? Why do I have to have only studied how to punch this way, okay? So think about things logically in that fashion, and then ask yourself, what do you need to understand generally? And this is what my experience of almost 50 years now tells me. It tells me that things move so quickly and so chaotically in a situation that my body has to be able to adjust and put itself in the right position. I have to be of the right mindset, and I have to, at that point, fight into the position I need to exercise technique, okay? Technique comes out of that organically, okay? That way you don't freeze up. You're not trying to do a technique, okay? So with that being said, here's what really matters. Your breathing, your ability to transfer work, okay? In any system where there's power involved and some sort of a vector that is going to result in taking power from one part and putting it into another, you have 2 aspects that should concern you. One is the efficiency of your actions, okay? And the second one is how strong your actions are. So I'll put this in another way and a good analogy. When you study physiology in a Western culture, you learn how to make your muscles stronger, okay? In any number of ways. It can be isometrically, with weights, with different methods. When you study yoga, you learn how to make your muscles more efficient with respect to your oxygen intake and breathing, okay? You learn how to use control to such a point where you have maximum efficiency with your overall body system in order to make an action powerful, okay? There are 2 different approaches with the same goal. You're burning the candle at 2 ends, okay? I want to be able to do things so I'm generating a lot of power. I want to make sure that this is very efficient, because lack of efficiency is very, very important with respect to generating power. Okay? So you have a lot of different arts with a lot of different ideas, and I think they all have something to contribute. You have to kind of look at all of them and understand their place, and then look at the picture objectively. Okay? So let's take this idea of efficiency, your kinematic chain, your commutative structure when you're locking somebody. Okay? Your body, from your wrist, your hand, your elbow and shoulder to your trunk, are all points where you can leak tremendous amounts of power and energy. Okay? Before you even develop your trunk to be strong when you're hitting. Okay? Where you put your weight when you're hitting makes a very big difference as well. Okay? This is a big weight. Okay? If it's going here, then there's going to be more weight going this way. If it's going here, there's going to be more weight going this way. So you have to understand that relationship with your head. Okay? Yes, you have to protect your chin, you have to do certain things, but you also have to understand that, no, you don't want to punch like this. Okay? But you want to understand the role of your shoulder and head in when you're coming in and using some sort of striking technique. All right? So the idea is when you're doing a punch to do it in a way where you do not lose energy from the point of your work, okay, to the point where you are putting it into the target. Okay? The other thing about that is muscle tension. Now, again, misconceptions are rife. When people tell you you relax, true, but there's no such thing. Your muscles don't simply relax unless you're dead. Some muscles are always working, pulling, and muscles don't push, they only pull, okay? While other muscles are relaxing. The trick is to know which muscles to relax. In fact, though, what people confuse is when you're trying to relax, so-called relax your body, what you're really trying to do is not create tension, okay? Because excess tension has the same effect as disalignment. It will rob your work of energy, okay? The Systema people are very big on this, okay? So this idea that when you're doing this punch, it's very counterintuitive when you're working with this stuff at a high level. But you have to understand this idea of when I'm practicing stopping my punch, it's actually ultimately a very bad habit, okay? Because you're creating tension, but you're not really hitting anything, okay? So you have to understand how to practice to develop the right body mechanics, okay? And what to hit. And we're going to be doing a lot of that on this channel. But I have people hit a special bag made out of beans, which I'm going to do a video on. I'll show you guys. And the idea is you don't want to stop your energy until you just settle your weight to transfer, which grounds you. Grounding is important because if you don't ground your body, then all that force comes back upon you, okay? So people do all this strong stuff, they come and they hit, boom, and it comes back upon them. A lot of it. To avoid that, you have to settle and ground. In the Chinese martial arts, there's a lot of emphasis in the older boxing styles of tendon strength, okay? That is because it's teaching you this concept of how to ground and how to use that type of strength instead of muscle strength, which gives you a more of a relaxed movement as you're throwing your blows, okay? With no wasteful muscle tension, okay? The reason you have to do it that way, again, it has to do with grounding so that the energy goes into your target. Okay, and if anything does come back, it doesn't come back on you, but it's redistributed into the ground and not into your own structure. Okay? Which is a much better alternative. Okay, we're going to do this in 2 videos. Hang tight.